Hey everyone, Dukinus here with part 2 of my mini viability series for the Gunslinger after the June update. A link to part 1 is in the description, and I recommend watching it before you watch this video. Part 1 discussed the grenades, and this next episode will cover modifiers, but this episode is focused on throwing knives and their available modifiers. I'm assuming everyone is familiar with the update by now, so instead of going over the changes, I'll focus more on how and to what extent you will feel the changes in your gameplay. I will show my research around damage numbers and the stats behind the modifiers, as well as how my personal build was affected. The nerf to damage is pretty nominal. They did 158 damage to the head, which is now 142 as you're seeing here. The 10% nerf, which accounts for 16 damage, is about half a bullet or less from a body shot with most hand cannons and scout rifles. So you won't notice this change in your game-to-game gunfights, except for here and there where you'll leave an enemy with a sliver of health. Not a whole lot changes, which is why the more interesting discussion is based around the modifiers you can apply to throwing knives. That's the main focus today. Circle of Life now reduces the cooldown of your golden gun when you land precision throwing knife kills. To determine how effective this modifier is, we have to know exactly how much the cooldown is reduced by. To test this, I went into patrol with 0 intellect and timed how long it took to charge my super without killing anything. I know I could have just looked at the super timer on my character, but the tier 5 time was proven to be inaccurate on Reddit, so I wanted to calculate tier 0 for myself just to be sure. Without any kills at all, it did take 5 minutes and 30 seconds for the super to charge, which is what the timer indicates. Next, I emptied my golden gun and let the timer run up again, this time killing one acolyte with a precision throwing knife without Circle of Life. The time was 5 minutes and 28 seconds, so a precision throwing knife kill without Circle of Life on an acolyte drops your super's cooldown by 2 seconds. Lastly, I let the super rebuild again, this time landing a precision throwing knife kill with Circle of Life active. The super cooldown lasted 4 minutes and 55 seconds. Therefore, a precision throwing knife kill on an acolyte takes 35 seconds off of your super's cooldown, 33 seconds of which is attributable to Circle of Life. Now, you might be thinking, but Duke, what if a Guardian in the Crucible has a different cooldown reduction than an acolyte does? To test this in Crucible, I'd have to either set up a 3v3 match with 5 friends and waste everyone's time repeating the same steps as before, or go into a classic free-for-all with a friend, repeat the same test, but with the added challenge of not dying at all, which would mess with the timer. I didn't think it would work out, nor would I be able to trust the results even if it did, but it is a good question, so I did the next best thing I could think of. I ran a second test on the assumption that if different PvE enemies gave different cooldown reductions, I would have to test it in Crucible. So, I did the exact same thing with a Hollowed Knight that I did with an Acolyte. Because a Hollowed Knight is an Ultra, the super cooldown from a kill is obviously greater. Killing a Hollowed Knight with a precision throwing knife without Circle of Life resulted in a cooldown of 5 minutes and 18 seconds, so a reduction of 12 seconds. When repeating the same process with Circle of Life active, the cooldown is 4 minutes and 45 seconds. That makes Circle of Life responsible for 33 seconds of cooldown again. Therefore, the cooldown reduction related to the Circle of Life modifier remained constant for both the Acolyte and the Hollowed Knight kills. The fact that Circle of Life is responsible for the same cooldown reduction for 2 very different enemies, combined with the fact that Bungie has historically kept Crucible and PvE pretty consistent for the most part, leads me to be pretty confident that a precision throwing knife kill in the Crucible will also net you a 33 second reduction to your super. Otherwise, they would have needed to code a different reduction into the perk, which is absolutely possible, I just think it's unlikely. Since most Gunslingers run maximum intellect, I repeated the same tests under tier 5. When a Gunslinger runs tier 5 intellect, the timer says the cooldown will be 4 minutes. It's actually 4 minutes and 18 seconds, which is the issue I was referring to earlier. The Circle of Life results are the same, but also different. Circle of Life is responsible for the same cooldown on an Acolyte and a Hollowed Knight at tier 5 intellect, but not the same number we got on tier 0 intellect. Both the Acolyte and Hollowed Knight reduce your cooldown by an additional 26 seconds on top of the reduction from simply getting a kill, as opposed to the 33 seconds we saw in tier 0. I know I hit you guys with a lot of math in the last 2 minutes, so just look at this screenshot I put together that summarizes the results in an easy way to understand. Pay attention to column E and column I. With tier 5 intellect and the Circle of Life modifier active, a precision throwing knife kill reduces your golden gun cooldown by 26 seconds more than if you did not have Circle of Life. The reduction is 33 seconds with 0 intellect. We'll move on to the Incendiary Blade next. I don't have a lot to say about this since it didn't change that much, but as you're seeing here, similar to what I said about incendiary grenades in the last video, Bungie accidentally reduced the burn damage of this modifier from 5 ticks of 7 damage down to 5 ticks of 4 damage. There's speculation that Bungie's working on fixing this, but as it stands, you're getting 20 damage over time from this modifier as opposed to 35 before. As always, the Knife Juggler modifier eliminates the cooldown when you use your throwing knife for a precision kill. Be aware, however, in many circumstances, if you trade with your opponent in the Crucible, this modifier does not kick in. You have the facts now, and I invite you to think of how this information changes your personal build. I'm open to hearing your thoughts in the comments, but before I go, I'll leave you with my thoughts. First and foremost, I'm writing off the Incendiary Blade. That modifier is terrible. 20 damage is nothing, especially considering the opportunity cost is another free throwing knife or 26 seconds off of your super cooldown. At 35 damage, you might see me using that modifier in 3v3. That way, if you're going to lose a gunfight because you got caught in a 1v2, say you tag one guy with a throwing knife with the Incendiary Blade. It's not going to give a whole lot of added damage, but stalling his recovery for a few seconds might help your team clean up the kills if they get to the party late. That's the only real benefit I see though, and I will not be using this at 20 damage. I'm torn on the other two at the moment. In 6v6, you could get your super pretty quickly with Circle of Life, as long as you land your precision kills. I will definitely be giving that a try, and I think Circle of Life is a good pub stomping class because it's high risk, high reward. By that I mean, if you aren't landing your throwing knives, you're dying and waiting longer for your super. But if you are landing them, you're staying alive and building super at a very fast rate. Everything is dependent on your proficiency with throwing knives. So I think if you're less skilled with throwing knives, you might prefer Knife Juggler, because if you miss, whatever, but if you land one, you're rewarded with another throwing knife to keep using. Both of these perks contribute to the class's viability, and I'm very pleased to say that I think Bungie made a good decision reworking the Circle of Life perk. That's it for me, guys. Like I said earlier, let me know how, why, and what playlists you're going to be using the throwing knife modifiers. I learned just as much from you guys as you learned from me. Also, make sure to sub to the channel, as next week I'll be releasing my last video that covers the other Gunslinger modifiers. Until then, Duking us out.